Want a skirt that looks amazing on every single body type and works for literally every style? Whether you're going for vintage pinup, cottagecore fairy, or just want something comfy and twirly for fall, this skirt does it all. And the best part, it's literally just a circle and two rectangles. It doesn't really get easier than this. Hi, my name's Abby and I help absolute beginners turn their sewing dreams into real wearable clothing. No experience needed, which means that by the end of this video, you're gonna have everything you need to start making your very own full circle wrap skirt. And if you hang out with me till the very end, I have a special tip that is going to help make this process even easier than it already is. It may or may not be a checklist that you can print off and follow along with, so you make sure you don't miss any steps. So if that would help you, I'll have it for you at the end. Now, let's jump into this project. In order to draw this circle, we are going to have to do a little bit of math, okay? We have to figure out how big the circle is and radius and this kind of stuff. Now, I'm going to talk through it so that way you understand what's going on here. But if at any point you find the math to be overwhelming and confusing, don't worry. I have put together a calculator. It is linked in the description that you can use. You just plug in your numbers and it will pop out all the information you need. So if you don't want to worry about the math, you don't be overwhelmed by it, you can skip ahead to this timestamp. Otherwise, let's talk about the math for making this project. Before we get to the math, we need two measurements. The first measurement is going to be around your waist. Wherever it is you want the skirt to sit on your body, that is where you are going to measure around. Next, we are going to measure down. How long do you want the skirt to be? Okay? Now, once you have these two measurements, we're going to go into the math. So for the math, we are going to take M1, that measurement around our body, and we are going to multiply it by 1.25 because when we wear our skirt, if the skirt came around us and closed right at, it went around us one time and then it stopped. When you walk and move, it's going to open and then people are going to be able to see under your skirt because it's a wrap skirt. Not a good time. We need our fabric to overlap a little bit so that way when you walk and you move and the skirt is swaying and it moves a little bit, you can't see underneath it. Okay, so we're having our skirt overlap a quarter of our body like this. Okay, so that's why we're multiplying our M1 by 1.25 so we get that overlap. Okay, so we're going to multiply by 1.25. That's going to give us the small circle. Okay, once we have the small circle, we need to figure out the radius. Okay, that's going to be the distance from the center of the circle to the outside of the circle. So we are going to take our small circle and we're going to divide by 2 times pi. Okay, now just to make this easy, I've simplified it, 6.28. So we're going to take our small circle measurement, divide by 6.28, and that's going to give us A, okay, the radius of the small circle. Now, we need one more measurement, and we are going to take A plus M2, okay, the length of your skirt. And that is going to give us B, the radius of the big circle. Okay, now that we have this information, we just have one more thing to do, and that's for the waistband. So we are going to do our M1, your measurement around your body, and you're going to add 80 centimeters or 30 inches. Okay, and then that's going to give you the length of your waistband, and then it will be a rectangle that is either 10 centimeters or 4 inches wide. Okay, so that's all the math, so don't worry. But now that we know B, that is going to tell us how much fabric we need to make this project. So for this project, how much fabric do you need? It's really common that a whole circle will not fit on one piece of fabric. The circle is quite big. So what we end up doing is drawing 2 half circles like this. which means that our fabric needs to be at least as wide as B, okay, wider than or equal to B. And then it needs to be as long as 2B, okay? So this is gonna help give you a ballpark about how much fabric you need. Now remember, you need to cut those 2 long rectangles. So if your fabric is a lot wider than your B measurement, you might be able to fit them here, okay? Now, if they don't fit there, what you can do is buy an extra 1/4 or 1/2 meter of fabric and then make your strips at the end and just sew a couple of pieces of fabric together. So you can do it either way. You can have the straps be long and across the top of your half circles or next to them. It doesn't matter either way. Now, I hope I didn't lose you. And remember, if any of this is confusing, if you're like, wait, what? There is the calculator for you. And yes, the calculator does tell you how much fabric you need to buy. Okay, so I just wanted to explain the math so this isn't some like black box. You're like, wait, how did that happen? How do we get here? This is how we got here. But if you're overwhelmed or confused at all, please use the calculator or comment below this video. I'd love to chat with you and help us all get on the same page. Okay, so we made it through the math. Now let's get into actually making this skirt. So the first thing we want to do is measure from the corner of our fabric along one of our edges, and we are going to mark distance B from that corner. Okay, so for our project, it's going to be 32 centimeters. So we measure in distance B, measure this. You can mark it or you can put a pin here. And now what we're going to do is line up your ruler at 32 centimeters and then rotate it about this point that we just marked and make a lot of little dashes, all of them 32 centimeters away from that original point, okay? And once we have all of these dashes, then we can go back through and connect them. And that's going to give us half a circle. Yay! Okay, now we're going to go through and do the same thing, measuring from the same point, but this time we're going to use distance A. And we are going to mark our little dashes all the way around and then connect them. Perfect. Okay, that's half the circle done. Now we're just going to repeat this for the second half circle. Once you have drawn both half circles, we're going to cut out the larger circle. Don't cut out the smaller one yet. Okay, so we're cut the larger ones, and you'll probably notice here that one of my half circles, the fabric wasn't quite long enough. So off camera, I sewed on a little bit more fabric so that way I could complete my half circle. And now when I cut them both out and I put them together, we have one big circle. Yay! Okay, perfect. Things are going great so far. Now, before we cut out the smaller circle, we need to actually stitch around that circle inside of our skirt. And we're going to talk about why right after we get done sewing. So when we go to the machine, remember, this smaller intersection is going to get cut out. So do not sew in that area or else it will disappear and it won't help you. We want to sew on the other side of the line inside of the material of our skirt. Okay, so we're going to sew all the way around using a 1/4 inch or a 1/2 centimeter seam allowance, like distance from the line that we drew. And now we can cut out this smaller circle. Now, why did we have to sew this first? Because once I cut this out, I'm going to measure the distance around. I end up somewhere around 32 centimeters. Okay, now when I take this and I pull the edges, because once you cut this out, you're going to be playing with your skirt, you're going to be pulling on it, tugging it, pinning it, things are going to happen. Now when I pull this and then I measure it again, I still have about 32 centimeters. Now here's the side that I have not sewn yet. I am going to cut it, no stitches in it, and I am going to pull it. And now when I measure, it's about 33 centimeters. And if I play with it some more, now I'm almost to 34 centimeters. So we want to make sure that we stitch this, because once we have cut fabric on a curve, it's very easy to stretch it out. And we don't want that. We already measured this. We want it to be this size. So make sure that you sew along this edge before you cut it. That way you don't warp or change or stretch out your waistband. Okay, so once we have cut out both inner circles, we are now going to sew our two halves together. To do this, we're going to lay our skirt one half right side facing up on the table, and we're going to lay the other half right side facing down directly on top of the first piece. Then we're going to pick one side, it doesn't matter which one. We're going to pin it in place and sew it using a 1 centimeter or a 1/2 inch seam allowance. Once we have sewn it, we're going to bring it to the ironing table. We can see we have one big circle, one side is sewn together, one side is still open. And the side that we just sewed, we're going to take that seam allowance, we're going to spread it open, and we are going to press it. You absolutely must iron anything that you sew. It's what makes your clothes look super professional, super store-bought, and not like a craft project you made at home. Okay, so don't skip this step. So once we have pressed that seam open, we now need to, on the open edge of our skirt, we have these raw edges running down the front, the sides of our skirt. So we need to make these not raw edges. And the easiest, fastest way to do this is to fold the fabric towards the wrong side twice. So we fold it once, we fold it twice. Now the exact amount that you fold can be somewhere between 1/2 centimeter to 1 centimeter, or 1/4 inch to 1 inch. Okay, this doesn't have to be perfect, it doesn't have to be super precise. Just fold it twice, pin it down, and then we're going to sew it. Now, when we sew it, we want to make sure that we are sewing closer to this edge, okay, away from the edge of our project. If we sew too close to the edge, then when we're done, it's just going to unravel and the stitches aren't going to hold anything. Okay, so we sewed down both edges. Perfect. Now the edges of our skirt are done. And now we're going to move on to the waistband. Now for anyone who skipped the measurement section, we need 2 waistband pieces. They are going to be these measurements. And if you have enough fabric, you might be able to fit 2 long waistband pieces just past your half circles. But if you don't have space there, you can use the space after your circles and sew a couple of pieces of fabric together to make these nice long straps, okay? Both options work, neither one is better than the other. Just wherever you can find the fabric, make straps that are this long, okay? Now, once we have our straps, we are going to work on finishing the short edges. And we do this by folding that short edge in one time, 1/2 centimeter or 1/4 inch. Sew them down and make sure you sew both sides of both ties. So this will be 4 short ends in total. Once you have sewn that, we're going to lay the skirt out flat on our table. And we're going to measure our new small circle. Okay, we've sewn a couple of things, we've done a couple different things. We need to measure what size it is now. So when we go around and we measure this, okay, we are then going to take that measurement and divide it in 3. Okay, whatever number you get, you're going to measure from the front edge. Pick one edge, doesn't matter, either one you want. Pick one edge and measure 1/3 of the way around your circle and put a pin here. Okay? Once you have marked it, we're going to take one of the short edges from our waistband and we're going to line it up right here at this pin. Okay? So we're going to pin this in place and then we are going to work in small sections and line up our waistband with a small section of this inner smaller circle. Okay, working our way through, pinning it, take your time with this. And as you're pinning, you're going to notice that the waistband wants to sit up. It doesn't want to lay flat anymore. That's because we're taking a flat rectangle of fabric and pinning it around a curve. This is totally normal. It's expected. Don't let it freak you out. Once we have pinned it all the way to the front edge of the skirt, we're going to take it to the sewing machine and we're going to sew this with a 1 centimeter or 1/2 inch seam allowance. Okay? So once we have sewn that all the way down, we're going to repeat the same process for the other side. So we're going to take our other waistband strap, set it right next to our first strap that we already did, line up with that same pin, and then pin it all the way around the other side, and then also sew this down as well. Perfect. Now that our waistband straps are attached, we need to do some ironing. So we're going to go to the ironing board and we're going to iron this seam allowance connecting our waistband to our skirt up towards the skirt. So we're on the ironing board, we're going to iron this up. Make sure that you gently tug the waistband while you're ironing to make sure everything is laying nice and flat. Once you've ironed that seam allowance to the edge of your skirt, we're going to keep going, okay? We need to iron down that same amount, that same 1 centimeter or 1/2 inch down the entire length of our strap, okay? Now the strap is really long. So what I like to do is just have a ruler nearby. I will fold a little section, check that it's close to my amount, iron it, and work my way down like this. Okay, so we're going to iron it all the way to the end. And then we're going to do the same thing on the other long edge of our strap. Okay, so from here, we're going to fold down that same 1 centimeter or 1/2 inch and iron this all the way along. Okay, now once that is ironed, we're going to take the whole waist strap and we're going to fold it in half. Now, when we are working with the skirt portion of our strap, we are going to fold this down so that folded edge lines up with your stitch line. Okay, line up the folded edge with the stitch line, pin it in place. Perfect. And when we get to the end of the skirt, we're just going to fold it exactly in half, lining up both folded edges. Okay. Now, a note here, make sure that you are pinning on the wrong side of your project, okay? We should be putting all of our pins here on the wrong side, okay? This is going to be really important when we get to sewing. So, pin this all the way down, and then repeat all those same steps for the other side. And once both sides are pinned in place, we're ready to start sewing. Now, when it comes to sewing, you can start from either side, but make sure your project is wrong side of your fabric facing up. It's what you're looking at while you're sewing, okay? It's going to be really important for when we start removing pins. Okay, so pick a side, make sure the wrong side of your skirt is facing up, and we're going to start on the short edge. We are going to sew directly on top of our previous stitches. So stitch here, come down to the corner. Once you get here, put your needle down, raise your presser foot, and turn. Now don't forget, lower your presser foot, and then continue sewing with about a 1/2 centimeter or 1/4 inch seam allowance from the edge all the way along this strap. Now, a note here, when we get close to the skirt, we are not going to be able to see the needle plate anymore. So make a note before you actually make it to the skirt about where is the strap lined up on your presser foot. So on mine, I had this little mark here about halfway, and I can see the strap lines up with that mark while I'm sewing. So when I make it to the skirt, I'm now going to make sure that the stitch line, the folded edge of my strap, lines up with that mark on my presser foot. I'm going to keep that lined up the entire time I sew along the skirt. Okay? And you're going to go all the way through the first strap and just continue going all the way, one continuous line of stitches, all the way from the beginning of one strap to the end of the other strap. Okay, it's a long line, take your time, go slow. And once you have sewn this, we just have one more thing to do and your waistband will be completely finished. So the last step for the waistband is we have this point on our skirt where we have the two straps that start and end about a third of the way around our skirt, right? Now, to make this a loop for us to tie our wrap skirt through, we need to connect the top. So to do this, we're going to take a needle and thread, and we are going to poke the needle up through one side of our waistband. When it comes up, we're going to take our needle and go the exact same direction a second time. And when we do, we're going to create a loop. And then we're going to take our needle and we're going to go through that loop and then pull the thread tight. We're going to do this 2 or 3 times until the thread is stable, so we're not going to accidentally pull it out while we continue sewing. This is creating a knot, okay? That's what we're doing. So once we have created our knot and we've stabilized our loop, then we are going to take our needle and we are going to go down the other side of our waistband. This way we're connecting the two together. Okay, so we're gonna go over and then down to the other side and then back up to the first side again. So you can see we're creating this circle, this loop between the two sides now. Okay, so we're gonna make this loop 4 or 5 times, and as long as we pull it tight, those two top corners are going to be held together. Okay, once we've done our 4 or 5 loops, then we are going to do another knot to hold all this in place. So we can take our thread and we can go around, we make a loop, put our needle through the loop, pull it tight, and I think I'm probably going to do 2 or 3 knots here to stabilize everything. Once we've done our knots again, we can cut this off and ta-da, the waistband is done. Now I want to show you how this loop works because sometimes people make these in my classes and then they're like, but wait, how do I put this on? So what we're going to do is take the shorter part of our waistband from the front of the skirt to the hole that we just made, the shorter one, and we're going to put that hole on our hip, and then we are going to pull the strap all the way around our bodies, okay, around to the back, and then we're going to take that strap and we're going to poke it through that hole we just sewed. Okay, once we pull the tail out, then we can grab the other side of our skirt, the bigger section, pull it around us, get the other strap in our hand, and tie them together. Okay, so it might take a little bit of adjusting. Sometimes that strap we went all the way around our body likes to ride up, so we can just push it down. But that's how you put on your brand new circle skirts. Now, the last step of this project is to actually hem the bottom edge of your skirt. But there is a trick here. Actually, there's 2 tricks. The first trick is that we need to let our skirt hang. Just hang it somewhere, put it on a hanger, and let it do this for 24 to 48 hours. Now, why is this happening? Because we have cut a circle. When a circular piece of fabric hangs to gravity, some of the fabric can droop a little bit more than others. And it has to do with something called bias. Now, I don't want to overwhelm anybody, so just trust me when I say it can happen. So what we do is we hang our skirts for a day or 2, and then we're going to come back and lay it flat on our table, and we're going to measure from the waistband to the end of our skirt and make sure everything is still the same desired skirt length. If it is perfect, your fabric didn't droop or have any problems, you're good to go to the next step. If it did, don't worry. Just mark the same desired skirt length all the way along and cut off any excess. Okay? It's as easy as that. Now, once you have hung your skirt for a couple of days and you have cut off the excess, you have a nice, perfectly even hemline again, now we can actually sew it. But here's the second trick. Sewing a curved hemline is a trick you are going to use on lots of different sewing projects. So I have made a dedicated video showing you how to do that right here. Okay, so once you get to this step of your project, go check out that video and learn how to hem your skirt. But I didn't want to just tie it in this video because you might actually want it by itself for other projects. So it's a separate video. I hope you love your skirt. If you have any questions, if you're confused about anything, let me know down in the comments. And if you're feeling like excited to make this, but a little bit like, what if I get stuck? What if I have questions? I don't have anyone who can help me. Don't worry, I've got you covered. I have a $5 a month sewing club that I run that helps people, so you can come hang out, ask questions, get help from me directly. And when you join this month, you get access to the checklist for this circle skirt. So you will get a printable checklist that you can use, print off, and just follow it step by step to make sure you never get lost or confused. And if for some reason you still do, you can come hang out in the group and ask me questions. Now, if you found this video helpful, if you liked it, be sure to like and subscribe below so you'll be notified next time I upload a fun beginner-friendly project like this one. You have already had the calculator, you already know how to do the math. Why not use those same skills you just learned and make even more projects? Because that's right, you can actually make a cape, a dress, lots of different things using just this circle. So if you would like to check out one of those videos, you can check them out right here. Until the next one, happy sewing!